Welcome to this house of memory and celebration. Got a reading that our poetry curator Ann Bach found for us. It's called The House of Belonging. It's by David White. I awoke this morning in the gold light, turning this way and that, thinking for a moment it was one day like any other, but the veil had gone from my darkened heart, and I thought it must have been the quiet candlelight that filled my room. It must have been the first easy rhythm with which I breathed myself to sleep. It must have been the prayer I said, speaking to the othersness of the night. And I thought, this is the good day you could meet your love. This is the black day someone close to you could die. This is the day you realize how easily the thread is broken between this world and the next. And I found myself sitting up in the quiet pathway of light, the tawny, close-grained cedar burning round me like fire, and all the angels of this housely heaven ascending through the first roof of light the sun had made. This is the bright home in which I live. This is where I ask my friends to come. This is where I want to love all things it has taken me so long to learn to love. This is the temple of my adult aloneness, and I belong to that aloneness as I belong to my life. There is no house like the house of belonging. It is time for our meditation. The season reminds us of our connection with nature. We're aware of the pretty landscape of this part of the world, and we have beautiful flowers up here and some plants and quite a few animals in the room. Let us be aware of our natural being as we close our eyes, become aware of our weight in the chair, our feet on the ground. And Anne will come read something.
Long Afternoon at the Edge of Sister Pond by Mary Oliver. As for life, I'm humbled. I'm without words sufficient to say how it has been hard as flint and soft as a spring pond. Both of these over and over, and long pale afternoons besides, and so many mysteries, beautiful as eggs in a nest, still unhatched, though warm and watched over by something I have never seen, a tree angel, perhaps, or a ghost of holiness. Every day, I walk out into the world to be dazzled, then to be reflective. It suffices. It is all comfort, along with human love, dog love, water love, little serpent love, sunburst love, or love for the smallest of birds flying among the scarlet flowers. There's hardly any time to think about stopping and lying down at last to the long afterlife, to the tenderness yet to come, when time will brim over the singular pond and become forever, and we will pretend to melt away into the leaves.
Before there was anything, there was primordial chaos, or some say an endless wild sea. And out of this emerged an egg. And out of the egg emerged everything. This is a point of origin. This is a creation story. In the Orphic teachings, in the beginning there was only darkness, and nothing existed except for two winged serpents, who together produced the cosmic egg. One of the serpents then wrapped around the egg until it hatched the brightly lit, golden-winged hermaphrodite god named Phanes, who created heaven from the top half of the egg and earth from the bottom half. He represented the sun. In the spring, we worship the sun. This tradition comes from the Buddhist teachings, the Hindu Kabbalah. It's around. There is a version in China. It represents how culture emerges from disorder. It can also symbolize our own experiences of pulling ourselves together after a period of defeat, the latent potential within each of us waiting to be realized. Now, some of the images have a snake wrapped around, a snake touching its own tail, the eternal return, the cosmic endlessness of things. And the snake, of course, sheds its skin, so it represents eternity, rebirth. I have to wonder about the wisdom of perpetually biting your own tail, but that's just a commentary. Okay. The serpent is a scary animal, and yet it is heavy in mythology. It is telling us something, that we come around to the same lessons, and that the creatures that are low to the ground and can go into hiding have something to teach us, something about the connection between what we can see and the mystery. Rabbits bring eggs. Does that make any sense? No. Well, it does if we think of the symbolism that rabbits, because of their incredible reproductive cycle, being very, very, very productive, and eggs representing new life, they have something to do with each other. By the way, those bunnies must be doing rather well financially to afford eggs in today's marketplace. Now, we are talking about wild rabbits here. Yes, this is the hair-raising part of the sermon. Of course, I leapt at the opportunity. All my rabbit jokes get a chance to be re-aired today. Legend has it that the hare, sacred to Ostara, the god of the east, the goddess of the east, that the hare was originally a bird, quite possibly a swallow. The goddess one day found that her winged messenger was not really fit to endure all the toils, all the various climates. So the goddess transformed the little bird into a brisk, quick-footed little quadruped with long ears, a warm, furry coat, and no tail to speak of, ready and able to summon belated spring from wherever she might be lingering, and to guide her safely even among the icebergs of the frozen north. Okay, so now we have the hare in the story. This was the friend and companion and messenger of the spring goddess, but it had a faint memory of being a bird. It was a little nostalgic for being able to fly, and so out of gratitude for service, the goddess granted the ability to produce eggs just once a year, brightly colored eggs that are the symbol of the awakening of the earth and the renewal of life. The Easter Bunny. Easter eggs are a secular seasonal symbol that we can all enjoy regardless of our ideas about religion. And it introduces whimsy, generosity. It allows children to have more fun and not just think of the heaviness of resurrection and some of the themes of the occasion. Years ago, children would put their hats out. They would make a nest for the eggs, and usually out of their hat. The boys would take off their woolen caps and maybe put a little hay or grass or something in there to make it a bit of a nest, and the girls would take off their bonnets. And that was, if there was no garden, they could put it in the woodshed or something. And the idea of hiding a nest, of course, the adults had, sorry, not to give this away, but they'd have to find the nest and make sure to put some eggs in it. The children would actually pick some colored flowers and put them near the nest for the rabbit to eat so that the eggs would come out colored. Nowadays, it's a little more common for the Easter Bunny to bring candy. I was over at the pharmacy, and there was an entire massive row of Easter candy. And in the very next row, diabetes test kits. Got to check that glucose level. Okay, one of my old jokes. The cop stops the car and looks in, and there's a rabbit in the passenger seat. And the cop says, "What are you doing with a rabbit in your car? You should take that to the zoo." The next week, the cop pulls over, as it happens, the same car. Looks in, the rabbit is still in the passenger seat. "I thought I told you to take that rabbit to the zoo." "Yeah, I did, yeah, we had a really good time. We're on our way to Disneyland." Okay, I mentioned the goddess of the dawn, Ostara. It was said that she rode over the fields in the spring in a wagon drawn by hares, which is probably why we don't have a very good record of her. She probably quit the job in disgust. You're telling me I get pulled by hares? I don't get any flying reindeer? Now, this name, Ostara, is a variation on East, Ost in German, like Austria, the Eastern Empire. This is the worship of dawn. This is the worship of the direction east, hence our name, Easter. What do you call 100 rabbits doing the bunny hop backward? A receding hairline. Yes. Paul had to speak up, yes. Okay, I'll stop. I'm done with the rabbit section of the sermon now. I had to get them all. So in the East, we worship the sun. And many religious traditions around the world are based on sun worship. It's not exclusive to the West. It gives us life. When the sun returns after the long winter darkness, it is time to celebrate. Death has been overcome. Our hopes are resurrected. So we have goddess sun worship. The spring deities in the story that I'm about to tell are over 3,000 years before the Common Era, much older than the tradition being celebrated in the church next door over there, but I won't comment on that. By the way, they really dress for Easter over there. They not every Sunday, but okay. Back to the story here. The Sumerian goddess of spring, Inanna, takes a journey to the underworld. This is her sacrificial death. She goes through an ordeal, she comes back, she's restored, hope returns. One interesting detail of the myth, she has a handmaiden, an assistant, who stays up on the surface when Inanna goes into her descent into the unconscious, into the mystery, to face her evil sister and all. This is very important. When we go through a period of great change and challenge, this upsetting, disoriented, go into the shadow to learn something about ourselves that we have neglected, we need to stay in touch with friends that are still functioning to keep us from slipping away, so that when we return, life still works. It's a small detail, but I think it's important. One thing that Inanna does in her journey into the mystery is incorporate some of what her difficult sister represents. Whatever in us we have not wanted to claim because it wasn't so pretty, that's part of the job of the descent and the return. This is the transformative adventure of claiming parts of ourselves we have rejected. Also, we must face our fear of death to have the rebirth and regeneration. This holiday with all the flowers and the pastels, it's about death. It's about dealing with death. It's confronting it and somehow surviving the idea. After her rough adventure, Inanna is memorialized in the stars of the night sky, as many mythic characters are. She's part of Pisces. I know what you're thinking. It's kind of a constellation prize. No, I check Paul. He's very expressive. When he groans, he gets this expression. You can really tell that was not a good one. That one did not work. Okay, I've mentioned the clothing. Pastel colors, Easter bonnets, part of the tradition, new clothes. In early church history, newly baptized congregants wore white robes for a while, for the month of April really, to be representing the fresh start, being reborn. Some church choirs have special white robes that are only worn on Easter once a year. We don't have the budget, but it's an idea. Peter Haslin, who showed up today, which is great. Usually he's on Zoom. Good to see you, Peter. And he sent me a cartoon last night. It was a little too late to get into the slides, but the essence of the cartoon was two rabbits in their burrow, one dressed up, and there's even a dressing mirror in the cartoon. He's got an orange jacket, pastel blue slacks, green tie, a pink hat. He's holding a fancy yellow walking stick. He turns to his friend, the other rabbit, and he says, "So, is it too much for hiding eggs in a field?" You had to see it. I want to tell the Gussie story. This is my conclusion. It's a story about dressing up on Easter, and it's from a Unitarian Universalist minister, Rachel Lomberg. Let me read the story as Reverend Lomberg told it. In the church that raised me, there was a woman named Gussie. Gussie was 81 years older than me. I considered her a special friend. Gussie was the kind of person who just about everyone considered a special friend. One of the wonderful things about Gussie was that she dressed for church. She emerged from the struggles of her life with a commitment to beauty and elegance. Her formal suit, hat, and gloves stood out in the congregation. Most people in this suburban Seattle congregation dressed in polar fleece and sensible shoes, as if a hike might break out at any moment. On Easter, Gussie always outdid herself, wearing an Easter bonnet tastefully done up with flowers. Everyone looked forward to seeing the beauty and joy she embodied on Easter mornings. Well, Gussie died when she was in her late 90s, after a long, meaningful life and a brief illness. She died in the early spring, a few weeks before Easter. We all mourned. People shared how sad they would be, sad to not see Gussie in her beautiful Easter bonnet that year. It felt like the end of Gussie's story. Then someone had an idea. What if we wore Easter bonnets like Gussie did? The word spread. That Easter morning, the sanctuary was filled with Easter bonnets and other hats on the heads of dozens of people of all genders. It was beautiful. The church has continued the tradition. People wear Easter bonnets and other fancy hats every Easter morning. People who love Gussie, people who never knew Gussie, people who weren't even born before her death, have all been invited into Gussie's story. Her commitment to beauty and joy lives on. This Easter bonnet tradition has faded some over the years, but it has continued. Reverend Lomberg closes by saying that this is her favorite resurrection story. People of all ages and all genders wearing Easter bonnets year after year in memory of someone that not all of them even remember. It's a triumph of love over death, which is the core of the Easter message. Death is never the end of the story. Gussie's story continues on in the hearts and on the heads of the congregation that loved her. Okay, some action steps. I have 4. Reflect on the areas of your life that are ready for renewal. Reflect on the potential within you that is waiting to be nurtured and brought to life. 2, engage in activities that symbolize revitalization, like planting in your garden or cleaning up a space. 3, if you have artistic interests, create something that represents the themes of descent into the mysteries, death, and resurrection. Include some shadow work by reviewing aspects of yourself that you find challenging. Or journal about moments of transformation in your life, and mention your emerging aspirations. 4, finally, if you can, take a walk or a drive in nature, observing signs of new life and growth. Reflect on how these natural cycles mirror themes of resurrection and your own process of renewal. Namaste. Blessed be, and so it goes.